Let's turn to the issue of taxes in the state budget, which has a $1.5 billion shortfall. Ms. Kirkmeyer, you're well versed in the budget, being on the Joint Budget Committee. You support a potential ballot issue that would require the state to spend about $700 million a year on roads. Voters have already told lawmakers to spend $350 million on law enforcement. So at what point do you have a responsibility to tell voters the truth, that locking up general fund dollars in one place means cuts to areas like K-12 education or Medicaid?
Well, first of all, I got stuck on your words. What point do I think it's important that I tell voters the truth? I've always told voters the truth. And I have told them the truth with regard to every time that the Democrats have gone after TABOR, or Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. For example, I co-chaired the No on HH campaign, so I will tell them the truth. And the issue with our budget isn't that we have a $1.5 billion shortfall. We have a structural deficit. So in other words, it's like, you know, when the parents give the kids the credit cards and they overexpend and they max out the credit cards. In our case, the Democrats are the kids and they've overspent. So we don't have a revenue issue, we have a spending issue. And we have prioritized education because it's a mandate in the Constitution, and I would continue with that. But what has happened over the course of the last 4 years that I've been on the Joint Budget Committee is the governor comes in with a budget request that is not balanced, and then I have to sit there and fight with Democrats for about 6 months to get it into line. And we have to determine where our priorities are. And they like to go off and spend money on things that we shouldn't be spending money on, basically, that are not core functions of government.
Just real quickly, when would it become a spending problem? If you're locking up some money over here and you can't touch that, isn't that a spending problem?
No, it's not. And in fact, when Proposition, what was that, 130 was passed, that said $350 million would have to go, of our general fund money would have to go to the recruitment, training, and retention of law enforcement officers at the local level. I was the one who marshaled that bill through. Everybody said, oh my God, this is going to kill our budget. We can't do this. We did do it. We found a way to do it. And it simply goes back to, we have revenues coming in, we have funding, it's a spending problem, and there's a crisis of priorities.
Thank you, Ms. Kirkmeyer.
Sure.
Mr. Bottoms, you're calling for Colorado to eliminate property taxes, which exclusively fund local services like schools and fire departments, hospitals, county roads and bridges. This would create a more than $15 billion budget gap. But you have said that Colorado could actually recoup $20 billion by ending taxpayer funding for abortion, transgender surgeries, quote-unquote illegal immigrant abortions, which feels redundant, and illegal immigrant programs and plans. So can you explain to folks the math of how this would work and how you would restore that $20 billion worth of funding for schools, fire departments, and hospitals based on those 4 items?
Yeah, first, it's not redundant because there are specific other bills that were intentionally designed to only be for illegal immigrant abortions. So to say that the state is funding abortions, those are actually 2 different subjects when you're talking about monies. The ability to accomplish this across the state, it's not that big of a deal. We do have those, so property tax does go into county, and income tax goes into the state. I actually want to do away with both of them. So
could you just walk us through the math of how those items add up to $20 billion? We've tried to do the math ourselves, but I'd like to hear your math.
On the 4 things you mentioned?
Yes, sir.
So it's actually much higher than that, I think, in a lot of different levels. But here's some of the simple math. We have one bill alone that went to illegal immigrant programs and plans that was $104 million. And actually what it was supposed to be is $17 million.
You're talking about covering all Colorado, a health plan
yes.
for folks. Yep, please continue.
Okay, so it was supposed to be, good job, you did homework. So $17 million to cover all Colorado. It immediately became, within that same calendar year, over $104 million. That's just one item. We're also funding abortions for anybody across the United States to come to Colorado. We're a destination state. So that's through the roof costs, and that continues to grow.
And you're aware that the state has estimated, the nonpartisan budget staff has estimated that that's $6 million. And then the transgender surgery is about $230,000. Needless to say, we added up all the categories that you and your campaign have cited, and it gets you 0.5% of the way to the $20 billion that you would strip out of schools, fire departments, hospitals, roads, and bridges. Where would the rest of the money come from?
Well, the first thing with the abortion numbers is, yes, we did see those abortion numbers in committee when the Speaker of the House was taxing or making sure that the taxpayer dollars went to abortions. They were 250% lower than what the actual numbers are, and we presented that, but that's not making the cut because Democrats control the House. The transgender surgeries were almost 35 times higher than the numbers that were given, but that's not going to make the cut because the Democrats control the House. We know with the illegal
Mr.
immigrant
Bottoms, thank you.
issues-
We went over on this, but just a quick word. You're waving your hand at me. Obviously, you've written the state budget for years.
Poor.
How do you assess his math?
Wrong. That he
Like a little wrong?
Oh, no. May I go?
Please.
Thank you. Well, to cut $20 billion, I'm assuming he's saying that's out of the state budget. That would be more than the total general fund operating budget by $1.5 billion. So basically, you would have to cut everything to, I guess, I don't know, I guess you're going to backfill local governments who are losing property tax. Because the one thing that he did say that was correct is that the state doesn't collect property taxes. That is at the local level. So I'm not sure how he would affect that, because he doesn't have any ability to, either as a legislator or even as the governor in the executive branch. But wrong, it's like way off. The $6 million is probably still a bit high based on some of the cuts that we've made just even in this last budget year.
Ms. Kirkmeyer, thank you.
Sure.
I don't mind answering the other part of your question if you want.
I'm going to turn to Mr. Marks real quick on the budget. You can come back to the lectern. Thanks for stepping back. I've repeatedly heard you call for audits of state departments, but state agencies are subject to annual financial and compliance audits done by the state auditor. In your review of the current annual audit process, what specifically do you think is missing?
Well, the fact that you said that the state is auditing itself gives me pause of concern. I think we have to bring in outside folks, much like the Doge, to really get a forensic performance audit, but for waste and fraud. It's a management issue that the only way to go through it, I opened up the long bill the other day and started looking at it and thought, pretty complicated.
Not for me.
Is that an apology?
No, I said not for me.
Sorry. Because look at where we're at. I think getting the right eyes on it, doing the right audits, will help keep people accountable. And that's what the folks in Colorado who feel like they're never heard around the state by politicians. They want accountability for the money being spent.
Thank you, Mr. Marks.
You're welcome.